And before we get going, here's a word about our sponsors. SDHQ Motorsports is a powerhouse 30,000 square foot facility with 45 family members reporting for duty. This single owner, single location business is based out of Gilbert, Arizona. It can handle anything from a hot rod, daily driver, pre-runner, race vehicle, half-track or Kugelwagen, or just about any other project you need help with. Their skilled staff with hundreds of years of combined experience eats, sleeps, and breathes performance. So go check them out at sdhqmotorsports.com or check them out on Insta at sdhqmotorsports. The We Happy Few 506 podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Gettysburg Museum of History, home of the Major Dick Winters collection and the largest assortment of authentic Band of Brothers artifacts in the world. Visit the free museum at 219 Baltimore Street in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, or at www.gettysburgmuseumofhistory.com, and on the YouTube channel, The History Underground, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Well, hello, and welcome back to another We Happy Few 506 podcast. In my top left-hand box, I've got the beautiful Rick Warden doing calisthenics. How are you doing, Rick?
Yeah, I'm okay. Just stretching it out. Just get myself ready.
Is that because you live in Twickenham?
No, it's just I know what conversations with you guys are like, man. I need to be ready.
This is Rick always being prepared. He's such a professional performer. He's actually doing stretches, and I bet you've done voice preparation before coming on, haven't you?
No, that's now. Mumo more, ma me me. Ubo more.
You're witnessing on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, a professional proper actor. This is what they
do. who's warming up during the beginning of the show. You know what that reminds me of? You know when you go to the theatre to watch like a musical or something, and the lights go down, and then the orchestra start doing a weird tuning up stuff before it starts. It really bugs me. I don't know why it really bugs me.
Yeah, well, Doug's the sort of trombone, and I'm warming up the violins here.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Boys, how was your Christmas?
Dougie?
Well, it was very uneventful. I actually just stayed with family in London, was in London for a bit.
Which part of London?
Proper London?
Yeah. I was actually in Walthamstow, or Walthamstow as they call it now. The most gentrified part. It's unbelievable how much, every time I go back there, I'm like, how has this changed? But yeah, staying there with the whole family. Yeah, everyone was there. All my sisters were there, and a couple of their kids. My dad, he didn't, he wasn't. I didn't see I saw his wife briefly, and yeah, it was good. Yeah, just spent time with them. It was good. Yeah. What about you,
Rick?
I'm a bit of a Grinch. It might surprise you at Christmas.
No, I'm guy like you, really?
Yeah, I don't. I'm all right. I'm typically all right up until Christmas, and then I'm just full on Grinch. Really, I don't. And January, I could just do without, man.
Oh, God, yeah.
And that's what infects my Christmas a little bit, particularly if, in our silly game, if I haven't got anything that's gainful employment or the prospect of that by mid-November, that basically means that I'm going to be twiddling my thumbs throughout Christmas, worrying about it, and then into January, and it doesn't wake up until early March. I mean, it's insane how seasonal it is,
Yeah.
So I'm terrible. I'm terrible on New Year's Eve, man. Are you good New Year's Evers? Because I'm terrible at
I hate it. I haven't done New Year's Eve since 2000.
Well, we should do one together then. I hate them, man. I can't bear New Year's Eve. It just drives me nuts. The onus to have a good time collectively drives me crazy, I think.
Yeah. I've stayed in. I think I've been out. I haven't done a proper night out since 2000. Once that Millennium thing happened, and I was at
they should have just cancelled New Year's Eve after 2000.
They should have done, because it was nothing.
That was also my worst. I mean, I'm not going to divulge too much information. It was my worst New Year's Eve. Millennium was tiring. It was
just horrible. Even if you had a good one, you had a bad one. Do you know what I mean? And then after that, I just thought, I can't be arsed. So I haven't really done. Like this time I spent it on my own because the family went away for a couple of days and did some walking somewhere in the West Country with the kids. and I was in the house all on my own. I just spent New Year's Eve on my own, watching the fireworks out the attic window, and you could just sort of see them over the sort of bits of East London. And
Toby, you're not being held prisoner by anybody, are you?
No, it felt like it.
But also, I don't know about you guys, but New Year's Eve Millennium as well. Were you guys lucky enough to have got banned by then? Because I wasn't. So I was in the same predicament I'm talking about. I was in Italy with an ex-girlfriend and lots of her friends, worrying about the Millennium Bug, like all of us were, completely unnecessarily, you know, another reason to be stressed out. But I hadn't landed banned by then. I didn't audition for it until Feb, I don't think, until in 2020. 2000, sorry.
When did we film it? Did we film it in 2000 or 99?
Yeah, 2000.
No, I didn't have it either. No.
So I didn't have that to look forward.
I didn't have it then either. I think I got it. Yeah, no, mine was late. It was a couple of weeks before we went to boot camp when I got it.
Yeah, same here. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because that means that, you know, I don't want to, maybe you wouldn't have gone on to it anyway, Matt, but we all were cast late. You as well, Matt, definitely, right? Into the new year.
I was cast like 2 days before boot camp.
Okay, well, I knew about the project from September on and was told that the casting director that was on it had said, quote unquote, there's nothing in it for Rick.
What?
Oh. That was what came back. And I was like, okay, 180 speaking roles. Nothing in it for me. And it's interesting because of the people that I think they were seeing during those September through to January in terms of the Brits. And then that casting director changed. Did Debbie McWilliams bring you guys in?
Was that the American woman?
No, she was the Bond casting woman, but she would have been on it. Who brought you in? Not Gary.
No, it wasn't Gary. No, I definitely saw the big American casting woman.
Meg Lieberman. So you saw Meg and she came, but that was because Debbie McWilliams brought her over.
Right.
So the same person cast all of us. Is my point.
Yeah, but the thing is, I can't, like, Lieutenant Welsh is a great part. And you're brilliant in it, and I can't. Was it one of those things where they kind of see like the famous people, and then it got down to us after 2 or 3 months.
Precisely that.
Yeah.
And I've had a good chat with Frank, because over a few months ago I saw Frank, and over that period, September to spring, he got seen for loads of parts, Frank.
Right.
And I don't want to give. I don't know whether I'm being indiscreet about it or not, but basically, Meg, I think, on the last of his castings, and given that she wasn't a touchy-feely casting director, Meg, at all, which is what I'd been told before I met her, I think got close enough to Frank to say to him, "Well, I know who they should cast in this show. Let's see if they've got the guts to cast the right people."
Yeah, she famously would never shake hands, would she?
Yeah, and as a result, that's exactly. And I'd been fortunately warned by a mate about that. So when I met Meg, I just went in there, pretty much blanked her and just did the scene and then left.
Yeah,
I went in with one of those big phone pointing fingers that you get at the football, and I think she.
but Rick, because like we'd all like one of the things about the castings, we all read for other characters. And I didn't read for mine. I mean, it was a small part anyway, but I didn't end up reading for it. We all ended up reading for other characters. And I think it's like a generic thing. Who did you read for initially then?
I only read for Harry.
Oh, you read for him from the beginning?
But that beginning, that wasn't till mid-Jan, Feb. Yeah. When, as I say, they'd looked, I think, at the kind of people you're talking about. You know, we could probably form our own ideas about what that list involved back in 2000. Yeah. And then... Yeah, and it's stupid. It is a bit silly, isn't it? Because when I then saw the pictures of Harry, I was like, this is a no-brainer. You know, that's one of the reasons I've got this, is the physical sort of likeness as well.
Yeah, nuts.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Do you know when Damien was cast?
No, but I know the story of him going to LA and getting the dates wrong for his meeting and going out that night in LA. I think the first time he'd been to LA, I think, and getting properly hammered, and then getting back in the morning after doing pretty much an all-nighter to the message that he was meeting Spielberg in an hour. Yeah.
Oh my word.
And properly straightening himself out. And I think there was only a handful left in it. You know, he was up against some big big fish,
Yeah,
Damien.
it would have been. God, I haven't heard that story.
Yeah, that's what he says about it. Yeah, and I don't know whether it helped. I mean, I'm not.
Well, no, it wouldn't, would it? Because like it's one of those things where, like, they can smell the booze coming out of your skin, and
not for winters. You wouldn't think that would help for that. No. But certainly he was. Yeah, maybe it loosened him up or relaxed him. I don't know. Yeah. He must have kicked ass in that meeting.
I don't know. I mean, this is also telling tales out of class. But I've been out with Damien till about 6 o'clock in the morning.
So you
with my eyes crossed, pale, sweating my makeup off, fortunately barely used, and Damien was sat in the makeup truck next to me, looking fresh as a daisy, with his script like this, learning his lines, and you could not tell.
Oh, really? One of those.
Yeah, just old school type of
right. Okay.
ability to it was just incredible. I was like, I cannot believe. And then you saw him on screen. He looks the money, he's hitting his mark, crushing it.
Yeah, so some people
I think he could just do it.
Yeah, some people just have that thing where they just can't tell. Yeah, wow.
Definitely not me, mate. That is not in my.
No, I remember. I do remember your time at Soho House around the noughties, seeing you occasionally. Well, I'd see a man in the corner, and I'd just see the back of someone's head, and it was your watch that I would go, "That's fucking Harry. That's Rick. Sorry." That's Rick sitting there, lying there with his head in his hands, semi-conscious after a night out, having a hair of the dog.
Yeah.
I used to see that quite often.
It didn't sit with me, booze, and it wasn't really my thing, was it? I mean, you guys know I was always a smoker more than a drinker.
Yeah.
But nothing now. Clean living, mate.
Yeah.
Did you have whiskey in your canteen in episode 3?
Yeah, I did.
That's great acting.
Yeah, I know I did. Much to my sort of, I think I have apologized to Bunny about it.
Mark Warren, yeah, you need to apologize to him.
Yeah, no, because I think at the time he was going very teetotal, I think, and his reaction in the foxhole to the booze is, he spits, and I don't think he was expecting it to have booze in it. It wasn't neat. Because that would have been crazy.
Was that a character choice, or was that in the script for your character?
Both. It was in the script and it was in the book that he lent on it, on whiskey, and so I put it in there. And I'm not very. I just think it's from a young place, that kind of stuff. Now, when I look at it, I'm not embarrassed by it, but I'm a little bit like,
I think it's the right thing. If you watch like SAS Rogue Heroes, you would be led to believe that every soldier drinks his weight in rum every day and just gets on with it. That's how they got through the war. And you kind of think it probably makes sense. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I just don't think that Rick at this age would have done something like that. It just seems indulgent now. I mean, as an actor.
Yeah, right.
I actually, weirdly enough, I saw one of those little vignettes that you see on Instagram or whatever. What are these things called these days? I don't know. They're not Vines. I mean, that's 10 years old, whatever they are. And it was actually Tom Hardy. And I have been, not dismissive of Tom, but I don't tend to, tune into everything that Tom says. But he said something really pretty interesting. The method gets brought up, acting method. Mm. And he basically says, look, the geek in me would like to say that there is convincing acting and there's unconvincing acting, and the approaches into that can be as myriad as the scene requires itself. So I could be thinking about what's for dinner, and it could be convincing acting. I don't really believe in the method. I believe in your own method. It just means that my approach in band, and too much when I was young, I think, was to sort of dive into that stuff a little bit. And I don't know now whether I would. Because
I was convinced, even watching, and I know the sequence that Matthew's talking about, because I remember, you taking a swig and you get this great little reaction. I was convinced that it was completely acted. Because you don't need, to replicate that taste of that drink, like you did. I didn't believe. I just thought it was just 100% you, because I was just like, well. This is how.
Might I also assuage your conscience here, Rick, and tell you that Bunny Warren was definitely not on the wagon during that, as he and I were out most nights during that film.
No, he wasn't on the wagon.
That helps me a bit. That helps me a bit, yeah. But for example, I mean, I'd mind it less in Act 3 because from when you first meet Harry and he's underneath the what do you call those arches in the shade, and I take a swig there. That was the first time that I had whiskey in the canteen. I mind it less for that, but I really don't like. I mean, it's silly, isn't it? This is 25 years ago, but do you still look at stuff that you did in band? I'm just very easily my biggest critic is me. And I still look at stuff from 25 years ago and think.
Thing is, Rick, is and I know this because I've done it as well, is you're involved with the World War II Museum and you tour with the World War II Museum, which means you have to sit at the front of a bus with 50 people behind you watching yourself on a screen as you drive around Europe. And it is absolutely torturous. So I know exactly what you mean. But you look behind you and everyone's like, this is great, man, it's great. And you're looking at it thinking, this is absolutely excruciating. And you hate
that. Yeah, but the thing is, Rick, you were fucking great in it.
Well, yeah, I might say this as well.
In all the little scenes you had with Damien and like, you were just great in it. Really natural, but really good. Just great. Played it.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. Sorry, tread on your lines, Doug. It's the stuff with Damien. So I guess I've got a question here. Did you know each other before you clicked straight away? The scenes between you were really natural and beautiful.
Yeah, they were.
And I remember being in the car because I used to live next door to Damien after he watched episode 3 and he was just going on about how freaking brilliant you were and how much you were the man in that episode. He was kind of like crowing, like I don't know. He was very proud of you. It felt that way anyway.
We worked out during boot camp, during that night in the crashed out urban place. We were up during that night and he said we've met before. And we're doing this kind of, remember, this is all in American at that stage. We were still all in our accents and I didn't know who he meant. And he had dated and been with a gorgeous, fantastic woman for a while. And I had a 2-week relationship with her when we were at university. So not only did he say we've known each other before, he basically said we were at a party and I basically wanted to thump you or something like that. And I pretty much did what you did, Doug, which is I think I laughed and said, well, it would have been pretty short. You'd have hit me and then I'd have hit the ground. That would have been the end of the altercation. So we didn't know each other, but that was our link. But he thinks that we'd met. We did hit it off straight away. You're quite right. We did. And I do like the stuff with him. Yeah.
Were you, as an officer, were you pulled like, because you're, like, I remember in boot camp, like all the officers, like you had to all kind of get promoted at the end of the, like in 2 or 3 or 4 days in, and then you were kind of doing different stuff because you're all moving stuff. In barracks. I remember there was a bit of a change. Do you remember that, Matthew? After a few days, everyone like a few, because Damien was with us in my thing, and I think you might have been as well. I'm not sure. And all of a sudden, after 2 or 3 days, Damien went, and I think you all built it together. So what actually happened then in boot camp? Did you end up?
I stayed in the same place because I was already next to Donnie and opposite Matt.
Right.
But we did start to have, you're quite right, we started to have little cliques, really. Yeah. And an officer's clique built up. I think it was the Thursday night. We went on the Monday, didn't we? And I think on the Thursday night, we did that finding the coffee pot thing.
Yeah.
Which was just the officers plus Donnie.
Right.
As the NCO would become an officer, wouldn't he? But yeah, but I don't remember Damien moving per se. Not where he slept from. I don't remember that.
Yeah, no, I think he did
But we did become much more involved with each other. And
were you doing different stuff than what we were doing? So we'll be out in a field.
Yeah, we were a bit
on the floor, and you were doing different stuff. I remember. Yeah.
Well,
or you would turn up and then, because I do remember Damien turning up and sort of being sort of guided on how to direct us and sort of a battle scenario. And he was sort of being guided by Dale Dye going, look, well, these are the troops here. You've got to get a gun emplacement there. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. I do remember that sort of thing. So and you must have been involved in all that kind of stuff as well. It was
we were involved in that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was prior to the engagements we did more. It didn't happen before, you're right, before the rank kicked in. And it's then, and that was when, unfortunately for me, when I was most tired. So that's when it got, me rambling on about having a bad time at boot camp. It was more I was fine up until rank. Yeah, I can see you sniggering.
I'll shut up.
But it was when rank got involved, when I had to start ordering people around, that I started to have a tough time.
Yeah.
But you're quite right. We were doing other stuff, sort of quite.
Yeah.
It felt like suddenly we were in a little gang of 5 or 6 of us.
Yeah, like in sort of officers' school.
Yeah, well, we had to a little bit.
You had to, yeah.
Yeah, when it came to the big one at the end, for example, that big assault we did across that terrain, I remember having a massive argument with Nolan at the end of it, because he had let the whole. They were late. Second platoon were late, basically, or whatever whatever I was in charge of, and they were late because Nolan had basically been sort of, he'd had his attention taken by some of those dudes in fatigues that were shooting at us, and he'd taken off 2 or 3. You weren't with him, Matt, because you were also in the same rank as Nolan, but you weren't with him. He'd gone off on his own. He'd gone rogue.
Oh, really?
With about 3 or 4 guys, and he'd buggered off into the distance, trying to track down Billy. Yeah, trying to track down Billy Budd and prove a point, or Sergeant E, or whoever it was. And
he's not a full Colonel Kurtz, man. He'd gone half the darkness. He was like,
yeah, and he fucked it up.
Yeah, and he was late. And what happened was, the reason why I say that though is because I know what happened, because Dale came down on Damien. Damien came down on me. So I thought, I'm fucked if I'm taking that. Because that's Nolan just disobeying entirely what I said, which was to get his ass moving and meet us, basically. So I then gave it to Nolan.
Rolled downhill, and you gave it to him.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Yeah.
Okay, I got a question for you, Rick, that I've just formulated right now when you guys are talking. So it seems like you did struggle with the sort of the rank stuff on boot camp. To my memory, what happened was they hazed us for about 4 or 5 days, broke us completely. And then they started actually giving you your rank and your jobs and training you specifically. At that point, it becomes a bit tricky for you. You're dealing with a lot of egos, actors' egos, not just soldier type of people. It's tricky for you. We've heard you talking about it, and you had a hard time there. However, do you think that the difficulty that you had on boot camp, or with the leadership stuff and the stuff that you were given, once you were then given that opportunity for scenes like Carentan and that sort of thing, Luz and all that business, and everybody listened to me, do you think you let rip then? Because you rocked the shit then. I mean, I would totally believe that is a leader that people follow.
Yeah, I think it was gold dust boot camp. I think my problems with it, I think, were my own. They were to do with, I don't know if you guys had it too, or maybe you didn't, because Matt, you were in shape, man. You were in shape during boot camp. I was, Doug, you were in shape too, man. I was not in decent shape. Look, I wasn't in Dexter shape, but or Ben shape. I was in shape. I wasn't in shape. So physically, it hurt me. But it was more this, guys. It was like a clash of fantasy meeting reality, in an actor sense, in the most vivid way that I can describe. It's like a metabolic hit. It was like jumping out of that plane that I stupidly did in Interlaken, which wasn't just a physical hit or a psychological hit as you see the plane fly past you as you jump out of it. It's metabolic. It's like a sledgehammer. And what happened to me on boot camp was kind of, God, I've got everything here that I've always thought I wanted.
Yeah.
Right. I've got a good part in an extraordinary thing. I've got so much source material. I've got all of this responsibility. And it just, with the fatigue involved after the 4 days of being snapped as a private, something snapped in me a little bit. And that's why I had such a rough time. I mean, Tim talks about me talking to him about the walls moving, that everything was blurring for me. I was absolutely fucking knackered, guys. I was knackered.
Yeah.
And I was also unable to smoke particularly, which had been my crutch for many years. Yeah. And there was nothing. It was a clean space, wasn't it? There was no booze.
Oh, so you were withdrawing.
Yeah, as well, I think. In retrospect, I think that was what happened. Was a kind of, without my girlfriend, who I then started to split up with, without my usual crutches psychologically, without any privacy. Yeah. Matt, didn't you have some cadet experience as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So it was different for you, man. It was different.
Yeah, I always thought Matt always that for me was always the one that looked like he kind of done it before.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd done all those. Yeah, I've done boot camp and stuff.
Yeah, you were just so relaxed all the time, and I remember thinking we're doing some exercise or something, and something was happening, and I just saw you. I don't know, just the way you reacted to something. I was just like, oh fuck, he just seems so chilled. like, and I don't know what's going on, sort of thing. And you always a little bit on edge, wouldn't you, Rick? Or I was.
Yeah.
So well done for getting through it then. So if you felt like that on day 4 and you still had another 6 days to go.
Yeah, but it started. It got better for me. I got over a hill with it somehow. Yeah. I don't know what happened. I remember seeing Jimmy.
It broke us all. It did break us all. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was done for good. I think it was the most extraordinary 10 or 11 days acting experience I've ever had. Did I enjoy it? No, I didn't particularly enjoy it. Did it teach me an awful lot about myself, Harry, the acting, the task at hand? Hell yeah, fucking hell. Yeah. Amazing place. That's why I went back there, Doug. It was because I couldn't sort of let it go in a weird way.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, very cool. I drove by it the other day, actually. I thought the first person I thought of was Rick Warden.
Really?
I was like, there goes Longmore. I must give Rick Warden a call. See if he's okay. Check in with him. So Rick, when you were at Cambridge, I'm going back quite a bit here. I sort of did a bit of research on you. I should have just talked to you. Like, it seems like you were quite into like physical theatre. Is that right?
Physical theatre.
For the listeners, you studied drama at Cambridge, right? Was it?
No, you can't study drama at Cambridge.
History, was it English or something?
I studied history.
Oh, really?
You do any drama you do is extracurricular.
Oh, right. I see.
But because there's so much money swimming around in Cambridge, and there's so much desire from lots of people to do a lot of theatre in all different sort of ways, right through.
Set up some famous like little theatre groups there, haven't they?
Yeah. Well, you can do the more comedic stuff. You can do the footlights, or you can do this. Is I think what you mean, Matt. Or you can do the new writing stuff, which is a group called the Cambridge Mummers. Or you can do the heavy verse stuff, which I also dived into a little bit too.
But you
what?
But you were doing drama and theatre stuff alongside your history degree.
Yeah,
as like in your own time.
Yeah, I did 21 plays in 3 years, so 7 plays a year. So so you essentially self-train there with other people's funds. It's extraordinary privilege of the place. It's amazing. And you get together with like-minded people, you know, whether you're doing the comedic stuff, which I did with Sacha Baron Cohen and Dan Mazer, that was the comedic stuff, or the more straight stuff, which I did with, you know, Nicola Walker and Sarah Phelps and people like that. Yeah, it's an extraordinary place to be, and for 3 years. But it screwed my degree up, Doug.
Really?
Yeah,
will do.
Yeah.
Because the degree there is hard.
I was lucky to get. I looked back at my finals, and I was lucky to get a 3rd class degree. I got a 2-2.
Right. Okay.
A lower second in history, and I did okay for a year, and I did okay in my first set, and I did all my essays over the 3 years. I mean, I think I copied a couple of them from my sister-in-law, but I did. They're all there, all my essays, which is 1 a week every week for 24 a year, 24 essays a year.
I've heard that.
I did them all. Yeah, I did them all, and it is hard. But by the time I came to my final, it was like too much mime skills, Matt. Too much bit of that, mate.
Wow.
Yeah, what is the Mummers Society?
No. It's the Mummers, MUMMERS. But the comedy thing, getting back to your point before I get to the Mummers, what you mean about the physical thing is that the only training formally that I ever did was I did a summer at Philippe Gaulier, the clown school.
But isn't Mummers, isn't that kind of physical theatre as well?
No, Mummers is new writing.
Is that right? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And you take plays up to the Edinburgh Festival with the Cambridge Mummers.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
But Gaulier is a different thing. Gaulier is. Do you know about Gaulier? Do you know about Lecoq, the French school, the clown and theatre? You know, I don't know if it was a circus school, Lecoq, principally Jacques Lecoq. There was a clown school in Paris where a lot of Théâtre de Complicité trained, and I got wind of that during my time at university. It was like, I want some of that. That stuff's extraordinary. And I went and did a summer with Philippe Gaulier. And the reason why that's interesting is nothing to do with band at all, although it has infected the way I do stuff as an actor.
That's where I'm going with this, Rick.
What?
It's where I'm going with this as well. You're quite a physical actor. when I watch you, there's I don't know, you seem to inhabit things quite physically. I don't know. Do you know how some actors, because they just kind of act from the neck up?
Yeah,
you're not using. You know what I mean?
Yeah, things that. Yeah, I don't know. Everyone's pretty different, aren't they? Don't you think? Or do you think there are schools like that? Do you think you can?
Think there are. Yeah, I think there are schools like that. I think there are schools that
I don't think there's schools like that. I think there are styles.
Inhabit,
like that.
Yeah, styles. Yeah, where you inhabit your body more.
Yeah, and when you get jobs, there's you kind of either the job requires the style, the very still voice only zero face thing, which is exactly, or using the body a little bit more. It's a little bit more of a natural style, but however, keeping it tight as well, so it's not too, so it doesn't look too kind of relaxed.
I think it's changed in our lifetimes, doesn't it? I think acting is one of those weird things that things become fashionable within and things shift.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
There's something about watching Rick's scenes in Band, particularly the action scenes, the throwing of the grenade, the taking out of the Panzer when it goes up in the air.
Yes.
There's something about the way he moves physically, where it could just be me as a nerd, but I can tell he's kind of into physical theatre. There's something about the way he moves is kind of either way looser, or I don't know, there's something about it.
Well, all I thought about with the physical stuff, honestly, all I thought about with the physical stuff with Band was that when we did those assaults at boot camp, right? Yeah. Let's take the night attack, for example. My experience of that night attack was essentially chaos. That there was a quality to it that wasn't, that there was a quality to it that was unknowable, that was accidental, that was that would come across in the subconscious sort of work rather than intentional. And so when it came to the tank stuff, or the one you're talking about, the grenade, the only way I would suggest that I maybe am physical is that I definitely, for I think a semi-smart person, I threw myself physically on those things because I didn't think that you could do them knowingly in any way. Do you know what I mean about that? About combat, it's not graspable like that. It's wild. It's looser than that in frame. Like I'm dicking about here, but it's. I don't think I could have done them. Yeah, I do sometimes when I'm stressing at the front of that bus, Matt, watching that stuff. The only stuff that I can think, okay, I can live with this is the chaotic, is the stuff that's physical. Actually, weirdly that you say that, because it is the stuff that's most obviously frenetic, physical. Because I think. And that's not me. That's all of it. I just think that the quality of the combat in the series is extraordinary. Really, I think.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
From my time when I was like a cadet and boy soldier and all that business, I've done so many night attack exercises, and never once has it not been utter chaos. How anybody for real does a night assault, I have no idea. As soon as your muzzle flash goes off, everything is 2D. You can't see anything, and all you see is shadows, and then it goes black, then shadows, then black, then shadows. And everything's moving in a weird staccato way, and you never get used to it. And then your sergeant major will tell you brilliant things like, on a night, your night vision is off by 13 degrees, so aim 13 degrees to the left. I'd be like, to the left. 13 degrees. Like, what? Absolute chaos. I don't know how anybody does.
But my recollection of that is that we hunkered down before the attack in a ditch. It was raining. It was dark. I think it crashed out next to Jimmy.
And when you see the gun go off and the muzzle flashes, it's really
yeah. But it was a shock. It seemed to me to be even a shock to Dale that the thing started happening at all. It's like, who's planning this madness? That was.
I think someone just got an itchy trigger finger, bang, and then
Settle emptied both mags of his Thompson that night, and the next morning there was a massive row with him and Donnie, where I thought they were going to have a proper scrap, actually, where Donnie essentially said, "You killed all of us, you fucking moron. You fucking killed everybody because you were spraying that Thompson around, and I didn't fire off a shot. I basically told the handful of people near me. I don't think you were with me, Doug, but I told the handful of guys near me just to get the hell down and not open fire."
It was chaos.
Yeah, so that's the physical stuff in band. It was almost like organized. I mean, listen, of course there are rules, by the way. I'm not, but we're getting into quite a nuanced chat really about what acting is, in a way, aren't we? I do think that there's a part of it that that you're seeking out accidents all the time. Does that?
Yeah, but that comes from not over rehearsing and being fully committed.
Both those things, exactly that.
And once you have those things, then and eventually, like, then the technical thing starts. Oh, could you make sure you land here and all this kind of stuff? That's when it gets very difficult, and that's when it feels like it's not going to look real. But it kind of, they might use it to cut in or do something like that. But if you're, I think that's what I loved about, and that's what I found quite easy about Band of Brothers. It's just about commitment, and the physical thing. I enjoyed the physical thing, whatever it might be, in shooting and being an A gunner. I learned that role really well, and I enjoyed it. And I just remember some actor saying, an ounce of action is worth a pound of words, which is, I think, one of these old actor cliches. I think I'd heard it around that time, I think, and it kind of struck a chord with me, being at that time very inexperienced. I'd only been doing it for a year or 18 months or so. So yeah, but you've done drama before university then as well?
Yeah, I grew up out in Buckinghamshire doing local Amdram theatre, but moving my way in between groups and going up to sort of semi-professional level, really, in Shakespeare, really. Right. So I was acting with people much older than me quite early, sort of 13, 14 years old. I was doing productions with adults, really, and right up to octogenarians. That's one of the things I absolutely love about acting, is that you act with people of all ages, you work with people of all ages. I don't think there are that many industries that happens in. I think it's one of the reasons why it's rare.
Interesting observation about it. Yeah, and
but you know what I mean about the accident thing. What I mean is
the most fun as well.
Yeah. What's that, buddy?
The old timers are always the most fun. The most
and I found that in amateur.
Yeah.
But I found that with amateur theatre too. That it was the old timers that were. I still go to quite a bit of Amdram now with my kids, weirdly enough. I really love going to it.
What were you going to say about accident? You were going to say something?
Well, what I was going to say was, I don't know about you guys, but I worked out from the stuff that you're forced to watch as an actor. It's a weird thing, isn't it, watching your stuff? Because you in ADR, you don't get any choice. You've got to watch it. And you're sort of drawn to watching it. Certainly when you're younger, you're drawn to it even more. But I worked out two things. I worked out that anything that I seemingly had really planned to do, I didn't like looking at. And that could be on the nuance of how you deliver a line, or when you look at such and such, or such and such, when you pick something up, whatever it was, if it was deliberate, Doug, like you were describing, if it was decided that I had to do a certain thing, it never convinced me. But the things that I saw where I hadn't planned anything were much more interesting. Shit, I don't remember planning that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I forget who's a really great actor who, they did To Kill a Mockingbird a few years ago on Broadway. Who was the actor that played the lawyer?
I don't know who did it on Broadway.
Yeah, really. He was on, I think, Newsnight. He's one of these Aaron Sorkin things. He's a great actor, and he said, I was listening to a podcast with him, and he said the greatest takes are the ones where, because obviously you have to repeat your movements, and if you've got a cut or anything, for anyone listening, obviously for continuity, and if you're shooting on one camera, which is obviously the quality stuff anyway, or maybe two, but normally one, you have to sort of repeat your movements a lot. But he said something that rang so true. It's like, the best takes he says he's done are the ones where they go, yeah, well, can you just do that again? And he goes, I can't remember, because you're so in the moment.
Yeah.
You don't, when they come towards you. Yes, that is exactly how it is. And he says it's only happened a handful of times in his life. And he was,
or when the continuity come towards you and say, okay, in that take, what you did here, and you think, well, I'm glad you're telling me because
I haven't got a clue.
I haven't got a clue because I've been doing work, but that's not the kind of work I've been doing. I've not been deciding for myself the minutiae.
They're the best ones. That's essentially what you're saying, and that's what, and I agree. And it happens so rarely, so rarely.
Yeah.
Have you ever had it when someone has rolled the camera and you thought it was a rehearsal, and then they've used that as the take? Because I've had that, and I felt totally gypped for the very reason you're talking about, Rick, that I always got into the every minutiae of every tiny little thing I did, which is garbage. You're dead right. But didn't do it because it was a rehearsal. I was just kind of like relaxed and just talking. And then when the film was a film, when the film came out, I remember someone saying, my favorite scene is the scene when you two were in the car. That was really natural. And I remember thinking, I didn't know they were rolling the camera then.
Yeah, there's something in that, isn't there?
Yeah.
There is, but it's having the balls to do. You so want to do a good job. It's having the balls to think, I'll be fine I'll be fine. I'll be natural. You just
that comes with experience, though. That comes with experience. I think it's just like it took me years to relax in front of camera. I was relaxed initially for the first 2 years, and then I started overthinking it. And then I went down a roll for about 6 or 7 years of, planning things and then just becoming, and then it just like trying to sort of super professional and super ordered, but there's something missing, and it was spontaneity. And then the amount of times that something would happen and I would withdraw because I'd lost confidence. I go, no, I'm not going to do that, or I'm not going to, or a thought would come into my head while we were doing a scene, and I would go, no, I'm not going to do that. And then regret it after the scene was shot. And it's like, oh, hang on a minute. What am I doing? I'm holding myself back. It's a really weird thing. But you have to, it's a mental state, isn't it, Rick? It's what you're saying. You have to be kind of, obviously rehearsed. Preparation is key, but also not constantly or
checking. Checking. But also, Matt, I kind of do the opposite to what you were saying, Matt. I often ask now for them to, because it's tape as well. We're old enough, all three of us, to remember 16mm and 35. But because it's tape now, I very often say, "Shoot, can we shoot the rehearsal?" Because and camera hate that. Because they often say, well, actually, Rick, we do actually need to flip in, make sure we've got the marks. But with tape, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is that it's unusable. The best that can happen is that accidental stuff happens. Stuff happens that it's the first time doing it for camera. So why not? The directors I really love are the ones who just roll it all the flipping time, really.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, so where you're from, Amersham in Buckinghamshire, is that right?
I was born in Amersham Hospital, and went to secondary school in Dr. Challoner's Grammar School in Amersham,
When did you leave?
What, buddy?
When did you leave Amersham?
I never really lived there, but because I lived before my family divorced, and we had funds. We lived in posh Gerrard's Cross.
Oh, not far away.
Yeah, Gerrard's Cross. And then when when the divorce happened and we ceased to have funds, we moved to Chalfont St Peter, which is not the hood, Doug, but rougher than Gerrard's Cross. And then I left. I left the area to go to university. I was marooned for a year off before university, which was the worst year of my life. Near Marlow.
But academically, you don't get into Oxford or Cambridge with, like, you must have really excelled. Like for any degree to do it at Oxford or Cambridge. I mean, it's such a high level.
I dossed about quite a lot up until GCSE level,
right?
And I was kind of smart, but a pain in the arse, really. Like a pain in the class. I think a hard work as a student in a way, because I was sort of busy dicking about and having a laugh, but I wasn't really focusing. And then I did focus like hell, Doug, when it came to when I got an offer I went for an interview at Cambridge University. I didn't get into the college that I had applied to because it was way too academic for me. But the American historian there, Dr. Jonathan Steinberg, basically put me in what's called the pool, which means they're saying, he's interesting, this guy, but he's not going to work hard enough to be at our college, but someone else might pick him up. And another college interviewed me. This is a long way of saying to you that when my history teacher, Mr. White, walked down the path at school, when he put on this act, this serious upset act, and he knocked on the door and said, I'd like Rick to come out here, please. And I thought, oh, what the hell have I done? And he said, he pretty much burst into tears and said, you've got an offer from Cambridge University. And from that moment, Doug, and it really was instant with me, I properly nailed it. And, you know, I properly focused, probably for the only time in my life academically. And that was from mock time. So January until taking my A-levels, my offer was 2 A's and a B, and I got 3 A's. Yeah. So I worked my ass off for about however long that is. I don't know, 6 months.
Yeah.
Because I thought I'm not going to be, the story of this is not going to be that I didn't get those grades and I didn't get in. I'm not in that.
It's an amazing achievement. I have met a couple of people in my life that have been to Cambridge, and like the work, like it's very hard, like say an essay every week, because I don't know if anyone realizes, I didn't know this until a few years ago, but to get a master's degree at Cambridge, you basically fill out a form, because
I've got one,
because the undergrad degree is such high level, they give you an undergrad and a master's at the same time.
Yeah, it costs you £5 and you get and you fill out a form. I did get a master's,
which makes me grind a little bit, because I did 2 years at night school in London to get my master's. And that grinds me a little bit that you just had to fill out a form. But it was because the level is so high, because like I say, an essay a week.
Yeah, 24 a year. Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? 8 weeks.
Yeah, that's impressive.
But as I say, you know, I think you all, I'm having this chat because of my daughter doing her GCSEs in the summer. You know, I think everybody at some stage academically, the penny drops for most people. I should work hard for this. Maybe for you, it was your master's, Doug. I don't know. And it happens that some people did you guys know people at school who worked like crazy when they were 15, 16 years old? And guess what? By the time they hit A-levels, they were in trouble, man. They'd worked too hard. They'd got fed up with it.
Yeah, I do. There was exactly that kind of.
I never got anything first time round. So all my stuff was done in my 40s. I went to school in my 40s and my late 30s. So 10 years after Band of Brothers, that's when I went to school. But it just, But I remember it made a massive impression on me, because I remember being in Interlaken. I remember saying to my dad, there's a guy here who's been to Cambridge University, Dad, because it was such an amazing thing. And I remember sitting at Interlaken, we're in the bar at the hotel, and you just got up and played the piano. And I remember being so in awe of you.
That's very nice. I do, I do remember.
And we just playing this lovely thing, and I was like, "Wow, this is what like people that go to Cambridge, just what they're like. They could just do anything." That's what I thought.
Matt, what were you saying, Matt? You had people at your school who were high achievers, and then
honestly, I mean, I don't want to name the guy, so I'm trying to think of a pseudonym for him. But he was the greatest. I'm a rugby fanatic, like total Norse. He was the greatest player I've ever seen. And I'm
at school.
Maybe Antoine Dupont now. The greatest player I've ever seen. He was unbelievable. We used to play, we were a rinky-dink little public school, but we went up the levels and started playing like Sedbergh and all these huge Stonyhurst schools, because we used to beat everybody because of this one guy.
What position was he, Matt?
Fly half. So number 10. So he was unbelievable, but he was also academically really, really good up until the age of about 16, and then he just dropped off a cliff. And he just lost the ability to. And then, weirdly enough, his physical and his rugby stuff started to fall away as well. And I don't know whether it's because finally he was starting to play against people who were almost as good as him. Do you know what I mean? And he didn't know how to cope with it. But I remember him then saying that he left school, because I saw him a few years ago. I was like, whatever happened to you? He went to Pontypridd or somewhere. He was Welsh. and he went to one training session, and they kind of like, hazed him and used him as cannon fodder, and he never went back. And I was like, if I had a modicum of your talent and like my grinding ambition, I'd have played for Wales or played for England.
I think it's a lot of these things are about when it's about timing, isn't it?
Yeah. And a lot of things in life are, almost everything. Yeah.
And you don't get to really, I mean, I guess you do choose that timing in a way, but do you know what I mean? That the events have already happened by the time you've realised it. And I definitely, I recognised that there was a few months when I knuckled down. Yeah. And it's silly because when I mentioned my daughter in GCSEs, part of me is wanting her for that penny to drop early. And it's like, it'll drop in her time, man. It might not drop GCSE, it might not drop A level, it might not even drop for her a degree level when she'll.
When does she take her GCSEs this summer?
Yeah, May, June. And I think my problem is that because I had a tough time with mine, I didn't enjoy my GCSEs at all. Partly I want to do them for her, and that's because I want to do my own again. But this is so weird.
Did you prefer A levels? Because I did. I was kind of lame at GCSEs, did enough to do A levels, and I did well at my A levels.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah,
that was Rick. Yeah,
knuckled down.
3-8.
I did the same thing. But my son took his GCSEs a couple of years ago, and they'll surprise you. She'll surprise you.
I hope so, man. Yeah,
I think they're not knuckling down, and like kids are just different now. I don't know, they learn different or something. And when he opened his GCSEs, I was on a build site somewhere in Croydon, I think. And like he opened them with his mum up in Yorkshire, and I was just thinking, oh, how do I look not disappointed? And he just freaking passed all of them.
Yeah, brilliant.
At like a decent level as well, because they're all like B grades. And I mean, it was great because he had these kind of weird processing and learning difficulties when he was growing up. And literally they were saying, he works kind of hard, but I don't think he's going to pass anything. Like he's going to work really hard for utter mediocrity. But somehow,
do you have that same thing where you, through him, realize that you're in some weird way reliving things of your own youth? Because I have it like loads with mine.
The anxiety as he was holding the GCSE paper and opening it, I could physically feel it. I knew exactly what that felt like. With my mum stood over me and his mum stood over him, and just thinking, I know exactly where he is.
What about sport? Is it the same with him and you and sport? Because you've always been sporty. Do you have that?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because well, for a start, he's about 6'2" and built like a barn door. Plays the same position as me in rugby. It's effortless for him. He just has no interest in it. When we were out living in America, all last year. I put him in high school, and there was a rugby program because it's near DC. So they play a lot of the Ivy League schools and stuff play rugby because they're all a bit posh, American posh. They all play rugby. So he walked into the rugby team, having never really played a proper game. I just used to train with him, and he walked into, did a few practices, and then they put him in varsity. Like this, no interest. He's got no interest. He's just naturally really sporty with no interest. I'm like a border collie. Do you know what I mean? Like I run around, very excited, lots of energy, but I'm doing all the work, and he's just like, he's a thoroughbred. So no, I hate him for sporting abilities. Hate him. But he has no interest in it. He's a nerd. He's a computer guy.
Interesting, isn't it? Because I like you, Matt, like you said earlier, like if I had an obvious talent, I would chase it so hard.
Yeah, me too.
I never appeared really, but you know what I mean. Like we know when you meet people like that could just draw amazing, or people like that. I just wish, I had something like that. But
sometimes you meet people who could do beautiful watercolor paintings, but they won't put a book together of the tall paintings that they're doing.
Yeah, and again, that's another talent of yours, isn't it, Rick? So what's with this knitting, Rick?
Oh shit! Do you know what? I brought my knitting to show you.
Yes, please.
So please explain why you took up this hobby, because obviously, like as Matt mentioned, you can paint as well, but why knitting? What brought this on?
It's quite a heavy story, actually. We lost my stepdad a couple of months ago, and he was 90 or 91, but he'd been bringing me up since I was about 10 years old. My mum is like a top drawer, has always produced great knitted stuff, and my two most prized possessions to wear are sweaters that she knitted for me and that I designed, right, color-wise. And I said to Mum lazily, because she went into a real low after Doug died, I want another jumper. And she said, no, I'm not letting another one. I was like, I was miffed that I couldn't get my next colour scheme sorted out. And B, I thought I'll open up something with her that we can both share. So I said, I'm going to knit one. And she pretty much, one of the few occasions, laughed at me. And so did my wife. Said, there's no way you can knit jumper. I was like, right, now I'm definitely knitting a flipping jumper. So that's where it started up.
Wow.
And it's to get through these cold months.
Man I've ever met, actually.
So this is the collar of that jumper taking shape.
Wow.
Gosh, there's the collar.
And so this is all self-taught stuff you're doing.
Well, mum came and stayed for 2 or 3 days over Christmas, and I tried to bend her ear about it, but she wasn't that forthcoming, I'll be absolutely honest. She mainly just laughed at me and derisorily sort of said, do this or knit one pearl or whatever she did. So look, I mean, that'll go. That's not a bad start, man.
That's fantastic.
Beautiful.
Yeah, you can totally see a crew neck.
Man.
Yeah,
that is really nice. If you take one of those old school 1980s wham bars and bite it and pull it through your teeth and then melt it as it drips, that's what my knitting looks like.
It's very specific, Matthew.
It's very meditative. It's very meditative. It's good for me. Guys, as you well know, you've known me for 25 years now. I need things that slow me down. That's where all my, smoking habits sort of went out of control, was that I was sort of self-medicating and sort of slowing myself down because I'm quite frenetic. I've got high blood pressure medically, and so I chase pursuits that calm me, and knitting's right up my street, man. It's very meditative. It's very peaceful.
Beautiful. Also, going back to Amersham, the reason why I asked about Amersham is there was a study done, I think about 15 years ago, that said that the people from Amersham are the happiest in England, which is why I asked when you left, because clearly you were bringing that average down.
I'm not in that demographic, man. I'm not. I don't know. Happiness. I don't know. What is that, guys?
Oh God, yeah.
That's another discussion,
Yeah, that's
another podcast, is what that is.
The pursuit of contentment. It's not to be found really in acting, is it?
It is not.
Not really, no.
In bursts, maybe.
Yeah. Well, mild fun or some kind of satisfaction, enjoyment when you do it, but it's the times all around doing it that is.
That's interesting you say that, because I thought, when I said earlier, I learned 2 things, and one was about the accident, that I like looking at accident. The second one is about the watching of the work, right? And it was this observation, which is that I try my best now to not really watch anything, right? I know that's a cliche about actors not watching stuff, but it was partly because A, working with some extraordinary actors that didn't watch stuff, but B, because of having done a lot of theatre, the golden thing about theatre is you don't see any of it. You're in it. You're not about judging it. You're not looking at it from another angle and seeing whether your nose looks wonky or your teeth, whatever they are. And I realized that when I watch stuff back, I've got one of 2 responses, guys, right? And both are awful in a way. The first response is, I'm ruining this. This series would be really pretty good, Band of Brothers, if I wasn't in it. I'm wrecking this scene, or whatever it is. I'm using band, but that feeling of kind of, oh man, there's really good people in this, and I'm just not, whatever. And the other response, which is a very unhealthy and ridiculous response, the other response, which is just as bad, is, I'm fucking brilliant in this. Neither are very good. I'm not mature enough to just be able to think, well, it is what it is. It's work. Even after 30 years of it, it's not enjoyable, that part of it, is it? Do you find watching stuff enjoyable?
No, I don't like watching myself. No, I don't know anyone that enjoys it either. And
it'd be weird if they did, wouldn't you think?
It's a weird thing to like watching yourself, definitely. But I just kind of, I avoid it at all costs. And I remember the first time, I think girlfriend made me watch something back in 2002 or something. And it's, and I remember actor Joe McGann saying to me once, he said, like, thing about acting, he says, you're never as good as you think you are, but you're never as bad as you think you are. And I've always had that in my head.
That's really smart.
Really good advice.
I'll pose a philosophical question for you then. If the worst thing is to watch yourself, and if nobody wants to watch themselves, why do you do it?
Well, you don't do it to watch yourself. You do it for the experience of doing it. It's fun. It is fun.
But the thing that you're doing, you're never going to watch because you either ruin it or you hate it or whatever. So you're never going to watch the thing you're doing. Why are you doing it?
Yeah, but that's then treating it like a normal job. No one that goes in an office 9 to 5 goes, oh, I want to come back tonight and like watch that great piece of paperwork, like that letter or email that I wrote. And you don't do that. It's just
but they kind of do. Like you meet somebody who works, I don't know, he's an area wanker for, I don't know, some bloody JD Sports or something. That's all they talk about is their job. And the people at the work and the office and this and that, they go on and on and on and on about it. Like, why aren't we allowed to do that? Like, are we just not allowed to watch something and think, damn, this is good?
No, I think my answer to it is that I think certainly from my perspective, I think I act because I have to. And I don't mean that financially. I mean, if you have to do it, you'll pursue it. And I've often thought it was an illness, really.
Yeah,
because mine started at 10 years old when the divorce happened in my family. Wow. I started acting, and it's been the only constant in my life for 43 years.
Wow.
And I've been without acting. I've been sort of bereft a little bit.
Yeah. That's what Bukowski said about writing. He said, I write because I have to.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, yeah, I think if you have to do it.
He just wrote to stay sane, yeah.
You know, I'm quite harsh on people who. Someone said to me recently, do you get this, guys, where people come up to you and say, "Oh, I've often wanted to be an actor," or what I've got is, I get a lot of, I've got a really good idea for a TV series, right? And I kind of think, and I want to write a Booker Prize-winning novel, man.
Yeah.
I haven't been doing it for 40 years. Where are your 10,000, whatever it is, 1,000 hours or 10,000 hours? Yeah. Where are they?
Yeah.
You've got a good idea for a TV show. Write it.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was lucky enough at university, Doug, to go to university with a handful of people who are novelists, and guess what? 30 years ago, mate, they were writing all the flipping outside their degree, writing journalism, writing short stories, writing poetry, getting those hours.
Exactly.
So I think that's why we do it, Matt, is that we don't have that much choice.
Yeah, it's a good.
I was weird like that. I was one of those weird kids at 10 or 11 who was telling people already what I was going to be doing. It wasn't, certainly 12, 13, I was already like, I'm going to be acting. And I was weird because I didn't also really doubt it that much. It sounds arrogant, but it was more like I could see the people I was acting around and think, yeah, I can do this. Like, better than some of these people can do this, I think.
You do it very well, Rick.
We've been doing it a long time, man.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, boys. We've had Rick for an hour. We'll let him go, but I've got one question for the pair of you to round things off.
Okay.
And I think it's pretty upbeat. All right, so I've done a little list here of a few films, and I want you each to add one to this list. And they are British films. They can be comedy, but they don't have to be. That you've watched more than 3 times, or generally people will watch more than 3 times. And I've cheated because I've stolen a couple first. I've got Rita Sue and Bob 2, East is East, With Nail and I, and The Italian Job.
Right.
British films that I've watched more than 3 times.
Yeah, or you would recommend someone watching more than 3, even though you've watched them 3 times. If your missus is like, should we watch something? You're like, hey, let's watch With Nail and I, or whatever.
Why does it be British? I've got Americans coming out from the 1970s.
Can't be American.
Where Eagles Dare, the old World War II movie, was that a British film? Would that be? I think it had a British director. With Richard Burton, classic with a great opening sequence in the mountains and
I think you're cheating there.
Is that not British?
Yeah, I think it's American.
I think I've watched A Fish Called Wanda quite a few times.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's a good call. Yeah.
And you know what? What's that film with that David Leland directed? By a seaside.
Is it Wish You Were Here?
Yeah,
that's a cracker. And
I've definitely watched that more than 3 times, and every time I've watched it, I've thought that is a really interesting film, and she's brilliant in it, isn't she?
She's Boise from Only Fools and Horses' Daughter.
Yeah,
Emily Lloyd.
She's excellent.
That's a brilliant film.
Yeah, there are brilliant British films.
I'm trying to think, but it's just been such a long time since any British.
I'm just trying to put a list together of some films to watch over the next week. That's why I'm cheating.
This isn't a philosophical question.
He hides it behind a philosophical question.
No, I'm full of crap. I'm just lazy. No, I'm going to watch Rita Sue Bob 2 tonight, and then I wanted some others, and I thought, but they've got to be British.
What about Long Good Friday, man?
Oh, I've watched that over 3 times, definitely.
Okay.
Do you know what I've watched a lot? Can I just put one in? Definitely.
Yeah.
Which is the Firm, Gary Oldman's one, the football hooligan film that was made for TV.
Yeah,
Gary Oldman and Phil Davis. Wow. My God, that's an amazing film. If you can see that, I've seen that umpteen times because I just thought Gary Oldman was revelatory.
What was the film that Bob Hoskins did after Long Good Friday? It was one of my favourite films.
Mona Lisa.
Mona Lisa. Oh, I love that movie. Yeah, if you want to see great cast, great story set in a time in London was sort of in flux going from the 70s to the 80s. And what a movie that is.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about that scene where Gary Oldman's kid eats the razor blade. He's got the razor blade in the mouth.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm thinking of that first scene with him and his then wife, Leslie Manville, when he's basically having a row with her and he's walking around saying it's like showing a fucking punt around the house because he's an estate agent in it.
Yeah.
And she's moaning at him. And because I need the buzz, all that stuff.
Nil by mouth. Nil by mouth.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd watch it more than once, man.
It's quite hard. It's quite depressing.
It's brilliant.
Thing. If you go back in the English films especially in the 70s and the 80s, they're all so bloody depressing.
What about some of the Mike Leigh ones?
Exactly.
Good phase, but I mean, post TV phase, he went through an extraordinary phase. You could watch some of that easily, man.
Naked was good.
Naked's great.
Yeah.
Kes as well.
Yeah.
Oh, you want a depressing film in that? Yeah, exactly.
What about the Scottish one with the football one? That you know what I mean? It's comedy, but it's
Trainspotting.
What?
Trainspotting?
No, not Trainspotting. Oh God, I'll remember it once I've gone. It's like a really cute film, but from the 80s. Oh God.
Oh, not Jossie. Gregory's Girl.
Yeah. Gregory's Girl.
Gregory's Girl. Oh, yeah.
Lovely film.
Oh, thanks,
come on, you've got like 15 there, haven't you now?
Whole bunch of my list.
Is this really going to, we really going to wrap this up? It's so nice to see you. And it's not enough, obviously.
I know. We'll have to do another one.
We'll wrap it up, but we'll have you back, Ricky.
Always back. Always have Ricky back.
Baby to sleep. Baby to sleep before my wife leaves me.
Okay.
She's I can hear her go outside.
It's always so flipping lovely to see you guys. It's a quarter of a century since we met, guys.
Wow.
And we're waiting for our show to age.
Almost exactly.
And it doesn't look like it is.
No,
I know.
What a thing we're lucky enough to have shared together. What an extraordinary privilege.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
What a privilege, exactly.
It's mad.
I think we Leighton, am I right here? Did we pay for the Harry Welsh flag in the town that he was from? And I think, am I right in that, Leighton? Colleen reached out a couple of years ago and they were doing something in his hometown. And I think we sponsored the flag with a picture of his face on it.
Lovely. Interestingly, I messaged her today because, because I left all social media today, Matt. which I know is I've been having chats with other actors and other friends about it. Closed down, and I didn't deactivate. I deleted Twitter, I deleted Instagram, I deleted Facebook for reasons that are probably too heavy for us to go into. But
I did it for 6 months. It's good.
Yeah. But what I thought I would do is message the people who had messaged me on Messenger and make sure they have my email details. And the last chat I had with Colleen, she sent me this cool photo of Harry, not photo of Harry in wartime, which are all cool, but him elderly, which I'd never seen a photo of him before elderly. I can't really share it on here, can I? So yeah, I messaged her today. She's lovely. I'm glad you did that, man. That's great.
Yeah.
I aim to make a pilgrimage. I want to make a pilgrimage there, right? I should go to Wilkes-Barre.
Yeah, you should. You should.
100%.
She reached out, I think, shortly after you guys came on the Zoom cast that we did.
Oh, it was you. Were you the reason I actually ended up speaking to her?
Yes, and it was us. We put that together and all the rest of it. And I was cool, and they were live, so the Jeopardies had my nerves, but it was about the 4th or 5th one I'd done. I was cool. I was hosting. I was having it. And right as she left, she just went, Rick, just got to say, you've got my granddaddy smile. And I just fell down like, the Zoom stopped because you could hear me off camera.
Yeah, and she also asked me for my flight jacket. Semi-regularly, she pesters me and says, can I have a flight jacket? I have. It's a bit moth-eaten. But I've said to her, try and get the real one, man. You don't want my one.
Has it aged well?
Oh, the leather's great, but round the cuffs, it's all... I guess I could take it somewhere, couldn't I?
Get it redone. Get a new cuff on it. Do it, because otherwise it'll get eaten away.
Yeah, I probably should do it.
Yeah.
It's the one piece that Lucy, my wife's always telling me, you've got to keep hold of that. Keep hold of it.
Yeah.
All right, beautiful people, we better get out of here.
Okay.
Yeah. Lovely to see you.
Always lovely to see you, man. Pleasure.
All right.
Much love. Happy New Year, and I'll speak to you anon.
Yeah, speak to you soon. Take care, Rick.
Later.
Cheers, buddy.
Oh,
that was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like we should have had like a bottle of Bordeaux and 3 glasses.
Yeah, we've got to get him back on. He's such such an interesting man as well.
No, we will. We'll get him back. We'll get him talking about other stuff. He's fantastic. He's so smart, bonkers smart.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was always so amazed. And that's true. That I did literally go to my dad, and one of them's even gone to Cambridge, Dad, because it was such a I'd never met anyone that had been to Cambridge, And it was in awe of him.
Leighton's saying episode watch along. We should do an episode 3 watch along. Me, you, and him.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea, Leighton. Yeah, it'd be great to get back and great to get him to sort of relive some of his thoughts at that time. But also, I mean, the guy's done tons of work.
He's a very accomplished and well-rounded actor.
Yeah, indeed.
All right, I better get out. I can hear my baby crying in the background. It is 10 minutes past his bedtime, so I better go. Namaste. Right. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. We'll be back next week. Thank you, everyone,
for listening. See you guys next week.
Cheers. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to our Patreon.
Cheers, Matt. See you later. Thanks.
Cheers, boy.